Alright guys, so we have our UI here with just a bunch of placeholders. Now we want to fetch the data from the API, from the Weather API underground. So we're going to go ahead and go to WeatherJS, and we're going to create a class here called Weather. And it's going to have a constructor. And then we're going to have a few properties here. One is going to be our API key. So yours will be different than mine. It should be, if you're on this page, it'll be this number right here. Or if you go to key settings, it'll be this right here, your key ID. So let me just paste that in. And then we're also going to set the city. So we'll say this dot city equals the city that's passed in, and we should actually have city and state right here. And then we'll do this dot state equals state. All right, and then we'll go underneath here and let's say fetch weather from API. So this is going to be an async function called getWeather. And we're going to say const response, and we want to await for the fetch response, and then the URL we're going to pass in, put in some backticks here. The URL is going to be, let's go over here and let's go to documentation, and I'm just going to grab this. Okay, if you don't have this page up, just go ahead and copy this in here. Now this is the API key, so I'm going to replace this with the dynamic value of this dot API key, and then I'm going to replace the state with the dynamic value of this dot state, and also the city will replace that with this dot city. Okay, make sure you have dot JSON at the end though. So that's our response variable. Now we want the response data, so let's do const response data, set it to await, and then the response.json, and then we can simply return the response data. Now again, if we look at what this gives us, everything we want is inside of the current observation object. That's where all the weather information is and the location info. So instead of just returning the response data that we get from this, I want to return response data dot current underscore observation. Okay, that way we just have one single object with all the weather stuff inside of it. Okay, and then the only other method that I want in this class is to change the weather location. So we might as well just put that in here. So we'll say change location, and all this is going to do, it's going to take in city, state, and we're going to set this dot city equal to the city that's passed in, and then the same with the state. Like that, and that's it. So let's save, and that's our complete weather class. So let's close that up. Let's go to our app.js, and now let's initialize the weather class. So we'll say init or init weather object, and we'll do that by saying const weather equals new weather. Now remember, this takes in a city and state. Now this is ultimately going to come from local storage, but for now I'm going to hard code it to Boston, Mass. Alright, just for now. And then let's see, we should be able to call getWeather. So just to test it out, let's see, what do I want to do here? Let's just trying to think of, yeah, let's do weather dot get weather, Now that's going to return a promise because, would I close it up? It's going to return a promise because getWeather is asynchronous, okay? And just by adding async means that this is going to return a promise, so we need to treat it like a promise and use .then and then .catch like that. So for catch, we'll just say error Alright, and then in the .then we'll get our results, and then let's just console.log the results. Okay, we'll save that. Let's go to our application here. Let's open up our console. Go to our console. Let's see, weather is not defined. This should be an uppercase W. And there we go. So if we look at this object, we're getting all of the weather information for Boston, Massachusetts. It's as easy as that. And you could pass in any city and state here. And now if we wanted to change it, we could actually just call, we could go before we do get weather, and we could say weather dot, I think it was change location. And then we can say Miami FL and save. And now let's go down here and you'll see that we're now getting it for Miami, Florida. So it's as easy as that to change the location. But I'm going to comment that out for now. And then this get weather, I'm going to wrap this in its own function called get weather. Okay, just like that. And I want this to be called when the DOM loads. So what I'm going to do is create an event listener up here. So let's do get weather on DOM load. So we'll say document dot add event listener. It's going to be DOM content loaded. And we're going to call get weather. So now if I save, it should do the same thing. Alright, so what we want to do next is, instead of just logging the results right here like we're doing, we want to actually call a UI method that will paint the screen. That will paint the UI. We're actually going to call it paint, so we'll say UI.paint and we'll pass in the results, and then we'll get all those results inside of our application. So that's what we'll do next.